All right, let's get started, everybody. So, if you're joining us online from the recorded videos and you don't know who I am, my name is Adam Frey Shihan. I'm the head instructor of WaSenShiKan Dojo. And today, we're going to be going into Nekodachi, the Nekodachi stance, as well as exercise 2. We'll be diving into those. But before we go any further than that, everybody, make sure you have enough space to move. We're not going to be moving as much as we were the other day when we were kicking, but you still need to have plenty of space. So now let's get warmed up. Knees up. Cat's going to be joining us today because he likes to do that stuff. Or not. Now he's leaving. Yep, as I said. All right. 20 jumping jacks. Everybody ready? Hajime. 1, 2, 3. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. 5, 2, 3, 4. 6, 2, 3, 4. 7, 2, 3, 4. 8, 2, 3, 4. 9, 2, 3, 4. 10, 2, 3, 4. 11, 2, 3, 4. 12, 2, 3, 4. 13, 2, 3, 4. 14, 2, 3, 4. 15, 2, 3, 4. 16, 2, 3, 4. 17, 2, 3, 4. 18, 2, 3, 4. 19, 2, 3, 4. 20, 2, 3, stop. All right, push up to that. Everybody up. Good push up position. And on my count. Each. Knee. Thumb. Sheet. Go. Rook. Sichi. Hachi. 2. 2. Hey. Get your feet slightly wider than the shoulders. Lots on my count. Each. Knee. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sichi. Hachi. 2. 2. Hey. Huggers.
She started barking before we used
Do the cup.
The cup, baby.
Hands on the waist. Big hip circles. All right. My other cat's here now. He's very excited. Don't give him a cry. Give you the knees. Other way. All right, get. You're stepping out with your left foot into Seisan stance. Right. Leg raises each. Knee. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sichi. Hachi. 2. Jab. Switch feet. Each. Knee. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Seichi. Hachi. Kyo. Ja. Hai. Yame. You move. Press. I'm going to do it properly. Usually I do it reverse, but since we're going on the camera, I might as well do it right. Stepping off your right leg, left hand single. Ki on that first single. Hai. Hai. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju. Hai. Doubles each. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju.
Nice.
Good. I'm hearing good ki-eyes. Risings each. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju.
Nice.
Combinations each. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju. Hai. Inside block punch each. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju. Hai. Other side each. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju. Hai. Block punch punch each. Ni. San. Shi. Go.
Go.
Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju. Hai. Other side each. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo.
Wait.
Ju. Hai. High-low punching each. Ni.
Okay, make
Really use that camera right now. Just make sure you're hitting the same spot every time. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju. Hai. Middle low each. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju. Hai. Crossings each. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rook. Sechi. Hachi. Kyo. Ju. Hai. Yome. Press. Kitsuke. And right. Good job.
baby out.
All right, so in Ryukyu Kempo, we have 4 basic stances that we use most of the time. There are others. Especially once you start working on weapons, you learn more about Makidachi. But the 4 big stances we worry about in the open hand aspect are the yoi position, which is just ready. It's really not much different than just standing there. This is because we don't want to have a designated fighting stance. If I get attacked, one of the best things you can do from a tactical standpoint is get surprised. If I'm going to get attacked, they're not going to walk up to me on the street usually and be like, hey, I'm about to start attacking you. Get ready. No, I'm just going to be standing. So we learn how to move from here. The next we learn is the Naihachi stance. It's our kind of even stance. It doesn't have any one particular advantage. It doesn't have a lot of disadvantage. The big thing I always talk about is keep in mind, most of the time, your opponents will be at your 90s. We're not fighting right here. This is not a great stance if my opponent is right here. I would turn sideways. I fight, if you watch me, Bogu, I primarily fight out of Naihachi. Just how I am. The next one we have, the next one we learn, is Seisan, forward stance. That's our main energy going forward, energy going where we want it. It's aggressive. Our front leg is bent, our back leg is straight, both feet are pointed forward, or even sometimes you will see some people will put the foot in a little bit, give themselves a touch more stability. That hurts my knees. I can't do it very well. Forward gets the job done. Hands are almost always in the guard position in Seisan. We do sometimes pull back to neutral, but most of the time when we're in Seisan, hands are in guard. And now the last stance, and this is what we're going to talk about today, as well as the exercise that goes with it, is Nekodachi, Nekodachi, cat stance, the way a cat stands. So what I want everybody to do is get into yoy, and we're going to pivot to our lefts. We're going to look to the left. We're going to take our left foot and we're going to point it to the left. Now when you look down at your feet, you should, if you pull that foot back, make a right angle or a T, a little T. Shouldn't be open, shouldn't be closed. Our foot is pointed towards our opponent. 95% of the weight is on your right foot if we're looking to the left. This creates that 0 point. All of our weight and thus all of our movement is from here. And what's hard to tell from here, if I'm going to shift so you can see, is this knee is bent quite a bit. I'm keeping my body upright though as it's over. In Nekodachi, there is so little weight on this foot, I always tell people you should be able to pick it up no problem and put it back. It's mostly there for balance. Some variations of it you'll see toes up, some variations you'll see heel up. Both are fine. I prefer flat foot. You don't, in my opinion, you don't really gain a whole lot from either of those, but you can do it. Some people need to do the toes up to remind themselves not to put weight on that foot. If you're wide in Nekodachi, that's not a Nekodachi. Nekodachi is a fairly narrow stance. If I got my feet nice and wide, some martial arts call this a back stance. And it's a little bit more in common with Makiachi, just shifted the other direction. I'm not saying this doesn't have any uses, but almost anything you can do in a back stance, you can do better from a Nekodachi or from a Seisan. So we want this. Your feet should be, when you go back, where you're at in your, shouldn't be that different, regardless of which direction you do. All right, so what's the point of Nekodachi? Well, by putting all of my weight on that one foot, I've actually opened up movement in all directions quickly and easily. When I'm in Naihachi, one of the downsides of Naihachi is it's hard to move this way. I mean, I can, but it looks funny, you can see. I can move this way and this way quite quickly and easily. But going back and forth like that is a little slower. Seisan, moving any direction but forward, requires a lot of weight shifting. If I want to go that way, I basically have to turn my whole body 90 degrees and shift, which we will be doing in exercise too. But it's not as quick, it's not smooth. It's not the point of Seisan either. Remember, the point of Seisan is that aggressive energy going forward. It's also tricky to go back. You can quite easily go backwards, but it's hard to generate energy that way. It's not what it's meant to do. It's kind of like trying to use a screwdriver when you really need a chisel. Nekodachi, by putting that 0 point, I just need to shift my weight and I can very quickly change where I'm at. And it's back, and it's not too hard even to push back and go. I brought my eku out, for those of you who know. This is my main weapon, is my eku. Yes, it's a bow to work. I'm going to use this to demonstrate what Nekodachi is. So, if I think about this part as my body, And that little part is where my foot is. It is super easy for it to just shift and go any direction. And the weight, all I have to do is give it a little bit of a push, just a tiny, just a one finger push, and it starts moving. That's Nekodachi. By sinking into it, what we're doing is we're actually shifting where this big weight is and putting it down low. And if you notice, it actually stays in place for a brief moment when I let go of it, because the weight's all down there, it's more stable. What we want to do with that Nekodachi is we're going to use that weight shift, and basically by using our muscles, we're going to, and there's a lot of energy that suddenly just got shifted because all my weight was here, and then it came out and moved this way. That's what happens when you shift inside Nekodachi. If I'm here and I push off with this foot and step into like a seisan to generate that forward energy, that weight is coming all the way up and out, allowing me, I move my whole mat doing that. Didn't intend to, but there it is. That's the power, the capability of Nekodachi. I can do that in any direction. It doesn't matter. And thus, my opponent, when I'm dealing with them, doesn't know where I'm going. So I want everybody out there, we're going to do a fun little experiment with Nekodachi to illustrate the point. We're going to turn ourselves into this eku and let ourselves fall a little bit. Don't actually fall, please. So, everybody out there, I want you to stand on one foot. All right? Get there so you're nice and balanced. All right? Now I want you to feel what happens when you take your foot and arms. We're going to do them all at the same time, and we're all going to look ridiculous. And that's half the fun. And we're going to push them all forward. All of it forward. And how many of you feel yourself fighting not to fall forward? You got to lean your body back. But if you don't do that, and you just put everything forward, you fall. Same thing. Pick it. Doesn't matter which foot. Actually, no. For this time, it does. Everybody stand on your left foot. We're going to go to the right. And you fall, you feel your weight. Even as I'm watching myself in the camera, because our brains don't like us to fall, I watch myself as I do it, try to pull back this way. If I don't, I just fall. This is Nekodachi. Now, if you remember when we were talking about striking, about how hitting heavy is cheating that, so we don't actually have to fall. We're using physics on our side and biomechanics so we can get all of our weight out without having to fall forward. Nekodachi and its ability to shift does that for us. If I want to go backwards, boom, I can do that. I can snap around. I can go any direction. I become this eku. This is actually one of the big things when you do study the eku that you learn, is how to deal with that shifting weight. There's a stance that epitomizes the eku and the new tebo. It's Nekodachi. As a matter of fact, the classic position with the eku, I can't do it because there's my ceiling, but is this, except for bending the eku way up in the air. Nekodachi. Like a cat. If you watch cats, they very carefully put their foot down before they shift their weight. And sometimes you'll watch, those of you who have cats probably all seen the cats very carefully. Nekodachi, I'll walk like a cat. Let's have a little fun. Very carefully, and then shift and sink. Once they're like, yep, this is good, they shift and sink into it. Last note about Nekodachi. Almost never do we have both hands in the neutral position in Nekodachi. We almost always have our hands in the guard position. Whatever foot is forward, that hand is your lead hand. That hand is out there. You don't usually do this. Occasionally, you'll do this. You'll pull this hand back into the neutral position. Make sure you don't overextend yourself by pulling this hand too far back and pushing this hand too far forward. 18 inches is what Kaicho always says. Keep them about 18 inches apart, because that's the width of most people's body. Mine's probably a little closer to 1920 because I'm a big guy. If you're littler, yours is probably a little smaller. So Keep that there. And if you notice, my body is turned, but it's not turned completely. I'm still got some of my body square. I don't want to ever expose my back. In sport fighting, you can't hit the back. So tuck your chin, move your back, suddenly you're much harder to hit. If I'm fighting somebody in a life protection situation and they do that, I'm going to hit them in the back of the head as hard as I can. We don't want to give our back of our head up, so make sure you're not too bladed. You're still square a little bit. You can't be fully square. If you do that, you feel it on your knee. And that's bad. That's using biomechanics against you. That's Nekodachi. So we're going to practice at first, we're going to practice just shifting in Nekodachi around a bit. And then we're going to get on to exercise number 2, which really works footwork as well as grappling. For my more advanced students who have worked on throws with me, really, really pay attention to that weight shift as you do this, because that's the weight shift you need to do properly execute most throws. So I want everybody going to the left to be a Nekodachi. Good. Now to shift, all we have to do is put our weight forward. Notice I didn't move my feet off the ground. They turn, but my heels are in the same spot. So we're here, boom. I've now just gone this way. Go back this way. And notice I'm handing off. I'm covering as I'm turning. This is important. Keep your hands with your weight. Feet move first, weight has to move first, because if we do this, we're off balance. But it's following. Weight, the concept of weight lead is really emphasized in Nekodachi. Now, if I want to go forward, I can't just, if I want to go that way, I'm sorry, towards the camera, forward would be up. If I want to go towards the camera, I have to shift my weight somehow. If all my weight's here, if I do this, I haven't just gone straight, I've moved off to the side, which could be useful, but it's not what we want. So I need to pull this foot in, then I drop all my weight on it. Once the weight's there, this foot just comes out. Very gently. Then if I want to go back that way, boom. Everybody step with me. It's like we're dancing. In fact, if you get really good at martial arts, you tend to actually become a pretty good dancer, because it's almost like footwork and rhythm are big elements of both. Boom. All right. Then again, if we shift this way, now I'm facing away from the camera, which I don't like doing. I was in theater for too many years. I don't like facing away from the camera. So everybody get Nekodachi going this way. Pull the foot in, step it out. Pull the foot in, step it out. Go ahead and don't just stand on that one foot again. And then all the feet this way. Oh, same idea. If I'm on this foot and I want to fall this way, that's a bad idea. It's hard to do, right? Everybody go ahead and try that. So get a good Nekodachi facing your left. Step up. We're all going to look ridiculous. Now try to put all of your stuff towards the camera, and you'll feel it. It feels weird. And you're not falling so much, almost like your weight is keeping you there. But if we pull this foot up, then we do this, we fall much quicker. And it doesn't feel bad on our joints. It doesn't feel weird. A good rule of thumb is listen to your body whenever you're doing any of these stances. It might feel unusual if you don't understand the stance. It might feel like nothing you've ever done before, but it shouldn't hurt, and you shouldn't feel like you're fighting your body. Like in this example, when we do this, in order to fall forward, it feels like I'm fighting things, in my hips especially. That means that's probably not the best way to do it. We go back to the concept of efficiency, the least amount of energy for the biggest effect, and proficiency, getting as good at a skill as we can in order to increase efficiency. There's a better way. Well, what's that better way? Put this foot down first. And then suddenly I'm not fighting myself. If I'm fighting myself, that's energy I'm wasting fighting myself instead of my opponent. A lot of things that can be said about, not just karate. All right, so that's Nekodachi. Pretty basic, pretty complicated at the same time. It's not difficult. The number one thing I see about Nekodachi that people make the mistake of is people try to make it much harder or much more stancy, much more karate looking. one of the things that kind of broke my heart, if I'm not going to lie, when I was learning Ryukyu Kempo, is how little of it looks like TV martial arts. Because TV martial arts are meant to look cool and flashy. This is meant to work. So it looks a lot more functional. What do you do? All right, so everybody go into the yoi position, ready? Exercise number 2. Now we're going to add our hands into this. So we're going to pivot to our left into Nekodachi. Now we're going to cover. Remember, your hands still go to your center line. So here's my center of my body, in front of my face. This is in front of my belly button. It's not over here. That's not my center line. If I turn so I'm facing the camera, you see I'm not actually protecting this. I'm protecting over here. I don't care if they hit my shoulder. I've had a bunch of people just in class punch me in the shoulder a bunch of times. It doesn't feel good. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, I'm so tough, I don't feel pain. No, it hurts, but it's not going to damage me. It's not going to slow me down. I'm never going to let somebody punch me in the throat in class. Therefore, what am I protecting? I'm protecting this. It's here. If you try to punch my throat, when I pivot more, you can see it's right there. Then it comes out and over here. Once again, even with my shoulder. Don't overextend yourself. Remember, elbow over knee. If I'm over here, I'm actually opened up. I'm not as protected. This is what I want to protect. Not here, not this line. The only thing I'm really worried about over here is my kidneys. And actually, if you look, my elbow is protecting that. I'm worried about this. So, as we do that, as we shift, boom. Don't open up too much. Don't go over here though, because that's attacks coming from this direction, hopefully if you're using Nekodachi, right? So if I'm over here, if I turn and square up, you see I'm not in the right spot. None of this changes just because we're in a different stance. Now I'm going to shift, and the hands are going to come. Boom, out. See, this hand here is pulling back. Now I want to go forward. Hold the foot in. Cover across just like before. The hand technique doesn't change just because we're in a different stance. Throw the weight. Boom. All right, everybody, we're going to do that part again. So when you're nice and slow, nice and calm, feel the weight. So we're going to go to the left first, so that means all the weight comes down. Boom. All my weight's on my left. My right foot, I turn my left foot. Now, cover. Just like in exercise 1. No different. I'm going to shift my weight. Hands have to come. Cover. Boom. Pull this foot in. Put all the weight on. Step this foot out. Boom. Cover. Throw the weight. Cover. Muichido again. This exercise, even more than exercise 1, repeats. If you can get the first part down, you can get the first half down. So that's one of the reasons why we drill this one part. My advanced students are probably being like, I've done the first 4 moves of exercise number 2 millions of times, and you're going to do it millions more. Because if you can get this first part down, you can get the second part down, no problem. Right? It's just how I've seen it work, because it's basically the same thing. Also, big emphasis on the feet. If you're paying attention, we have the camera set up, and I'm pretty pale and wearing dark clothes, so my feet practically are glowing in the dark right now. So pay attention to it. That's what we want. This is almost more of a footwork drill than anything else. So we're in yoi. Shift. Boom. Boom. Now let's do it all at the same time. Shift and cover. Boom. Pull the foot in. Sink the weight into it. Cover. One thing I want to talk about, as soon as I pull this foot in and I sink, this hand needs to come with it. Why? That's where my weight's going. My weight is no longer over here as soon as this hand comes in. It's coming up this way. Boom. Then shift. Boom. Again. All together. So we're going to go to the left and we're going to do it all at the same time. Ready? Each. Ni. San. Shi. Again, now we're super slow. We did that one a little quick. Now let's move like we're stuck in molasses. Weight shifts down. As my weight shifts, my hands come up. I am talking like this because I'm moving so slow. Shift the weight. Hands have to follow. Boom. Comes out. Pull the foot in. The weight is shifting, so the hands are shifting. Boom. Out. Turn the foot, shift the weight. The hands come with. Boom. That was fun. Shift that weight. Move those feet. Now we're going to do the 1 foot thing. So everybody, left way. I did that one quick on it. Pick the foot up. Fall. You feel it. Throw the hip. Boom. Pick the foot up. Fall. You feel it. Pull the foot in. Out. Pick the foot up. Fall. Throw the hip. Pick the foot up. Fall into the wall. Oh, I fell into the wall. It's just a fun way to feel how Nekodachi works, how exercise 2 works. The other part about this is that falling, and this is where the stances all come together. One thing I want to say about stances before I talk about this next part. If you ever find yourself just sitting in a stance, not moving, you're probably doing something wrong unless you're drilling. In Bogu Kumite, in life protection situations, even if you want to, with your parents' permission, go watch an MMA match or a kickboxing match and see how often people sit still. The answer is almost never. They're always moving around, shifting, moving. Your stances should reflect that. If you can't transition from one stance into the next, ask yourself why, because you should be able to. So make sure you have enough distance to your left. So I want everybody to shift into the Nekodachi. Remember, we just did the fall. Now, instead of just falling, I want you to C-step, you know what that is, otherwise just step through into that Sei-san stance and punch. And you should feel that movement. Everybody again? So then the weight shifts forward onto this because I'm going that way. Notice I'm not leaning. I'm trying to keep my shoulders over my hips. And then I transfer that weight at the same time that hand comes out. Remember way back in the beginning when I did this? You can see it and maybe even hear it because it makes a loud clunk on this side. When I kick this up and come through, that weight shift is exactly what I'm talking about. In the Ekukata, like I said, I'm going to try not to murder my ceiling. We come through and we drop, and it hits like this. Imagine this all the way up in the air and then coming down, boom, comes out. All that weight comes. If I fight it, it hurts. Ah, my shoulder. But if I let it fall and I let the energy come out, it doesn't. I actually then use my weight to guide the eku. Well, you're the eku. You're the weight that's being moved. I got my big bladed part down here. Boom. I'm going to C-step forward, and it's going to come out. And it's going to whap. And it's going to whap hard. The thing I love about the eku, and I love that sequence specifically, is if you do that right, there is no covering. Unless they also have a really big stick, you just got to get out of the way because it's got too much force. It's the same thing with this. If you learn how to do this weight transfer right, you're going to drive through and there's not going to be a cover. There's not going to be a block. There's going to be I need to parry and get out of the way because if that hits me, oof. All right, so we're not going to keep going that way, so you can center up if you need to. Exercise number 2, shift, cover, shift, cover. Foot in, shift, cover. Throw the hip, shift, cover. Now, I'm going to do this backwards. Pull that foot in because we're going to do that same sequence. We're going to step this way and do a rising. It's still the same. The technique didn't change. Shift the hip. Look, it's still here. rising. I have my back turned to you a little bit, but I'm not completely, I'm not here. I'm here. I can look over my shoulder and comfortably see the camera. And this is out here. I'm having to turn when I turn it is, but if I'm not, elbow over knee. This is still lined up even with my eye. It's still right there. One other thing to talk about with Nekodachi too. This is more for the advanced students or for the thinkers in the group. Either way, if I start talking about this and you're like, what are you even talking about? Don't worry about it. Remember, whenever we engage with somebody, we don't want to meet them head on. We always want to be at an angle. That's one of the other reasons why, if you notice, this isn't opened up. It's over here. Why? The assumption is I'm not meeting them head on. I'm meeting them at an angle. They're coming here. They're smart. They're coming at my angle. So that's where I need to protect. I need to cover my angles and then shift my weight so I can get to their angles. A lot of hand-to-hand combat is that weird jockeying, trying to get into that good spot, get your technique off before they can move. A lot of it is. All right, anyway, see my glow-in-the-dark feet? Everybody, yo! Single. Throw the hip, single. Pull the foot in, throw the hip, single. Throw the hip, single. Pull the foot in, rising. Throw the hip, rising. Pull the foot in, rising. Throw the hip, rising. If you did this right, at the end, you should all be facing the camera with your right hand up. I keep having to move my hand so I can see you guys. So I'll hold it in a good spot. See, right in front of my eyes, elbow over knee. Good, protecting my armpit. Remember, we don't want it up here, we want it out in here. One other fun thing about rising, I can't remember if I talked about this when we did rising. Keep in mind, you can hit with that. And that's a great hit to do. I love that strike. Because even if you miss with this part of your hand, you hit with your forearm, it still hurts them a lot. You hit with the good part of your forearm. All right, that is the first half of exercise 2. We're gonna do that again a couple more times. Then we're gonna move on to the next half, and then I'm gonna talk about it, as I like to talk. So, everybody, kick, kick. Left foot, yo. To your left, single, 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 single. Pull the foot in, rising, rising. Pull the foot in, rising. Throw the hip, rising. Now, this next part, there's the easy, we break it down transition. Then there's the faster, we don't break it down, we make it one movement transition. I'm going to explain both because we have people of all different levels right now. The easy, break it down. We step up, our hands turn over into the double position. Now we're going to go to our left, and we're going to step out into that seisan and do a double. Okay? Back leg is straight. It's hard to see with my hakamas. Front leg is bent. Back leg is straight. Both feet are pointed forward. My hip's turning a little bit because I keep looking at the camera, but ideally it should be forward. Now, hold on, I always have to. There. The faster fluid version is instead of stepping up, we C-step into the double. So we kind of skip that intermediate, step up, hands turn over, do this. We're still doing it though. If you do it quick, you can see I still hit that position. I'm just not stopping. And if you noticed, once again, that was that echo movement. That was that. I moved my whole mat. And it's hard for me to not do that when I do that. All my weight goes from here at this 0 point to all the way out that way. That's the coring. That's what we're talking about with weight lead. And at no point am I overextending my body. I'm not going all the way out here like when we were having fun falling. Boom. That's overextending. I'm keeping everything centered, and I'm cheating, but I'm still letting my weight come this way. I'm using biomechanics so I don't lose my balance. I don't lose out on that. All right, so everybody here, step up, and out. Now, everybody, we're going to talk about this a little bit more in the next class in the first part. And next time, I want you to get either a couple pennies, some tape, something. Right now, don't worry about it. If you have lines on the floor you can use to use this, great. If you don't, that's what the pennies are going to be for. The tape will be next time. We're going to do a front leg turn. The number one mistake on front leg turns is people pull their foot in. I'm going to scoot back a little bit more if I can so you can see my feet. You see, when I do that, my feet are getting closer. When I try to keep, I got a line because I got puzzle mats here. Looks like I'm way out there. This heel is going to come up some. You don't have to keep it flat. If you can, great. If you don't worry. Then I'm just going to let my body unwind. And now I'm facing this way. That's a front leg turn. So again, you got lines on the floor, put your front foot on that line. Step across and pivot. Now, how far do we step across? Well, if Seisan stance is slightly wider than my body, I got to step across twice that. That's a big step. That's not a little dinky this. That is all the way to the point where you can't see my feet anymore on the camera because I've stepped so far. I have moved my whole body weight, my whole body from here to here. That's a front leg turn. Then, just like before, our hands follow our weight. So we move our weight, hands are coming. As I'm turning, I'm moving this to protect myself. Boom. Now, I want to go that way, I just need to shift. And the hands follow. So it's as I do it. Front leg turn again. If you got a line, use it. Boom, boom. What you can use the tape or the pennies for is to mark where your foot should go. A great thing to do is called the Joe box, actually. This is a training method, but we're just going to worry about the first part, the box part. Next time, bring 4 pennies, 4 quarters, whatever, or some tape if your parents don't mind you putting tape on the ground. And you're going to make a square that's twice as wide as you are. And what you're going to do is when we do these turns, you're going to have your foot on one corner, you're going to go to the other one, and you're going to pivot. Now my foot's on the other corner. Boom. And that's how you can learn how to do a front leg turn or back leg turn, honestly, properly. It's a training tool. It's called the Joe box, and it really helps working footwork. There's all kinds of stuff you can do inside of there, especially when you transition from Nekodachi into all the various stances there. That's more the higher level black belt stuff. I should actually dig that out and work on that with my black belts here soon, because it's a very useful footwork drill. So that is, we're going to finish exercise 2 next time. So we'll keep the deep dive going into exercise 2, and I'll talk a little bit more about application inside of with exercise 2 and what we're doing. Because it's not just enough to know, we have to know what we're doing. If all I know is that 2 + 2 = 4, but I have no idea why 2 + 2 = 4, I'm never going to know why 2 + 3 = 5. I understand, well, 2 is 1, 2, I'm counting, and thus, if it's 1 more, I got 5, well, then I understand the concepts behind it, and I can apply it to more than things. All right. That was Nekodachi and exercise number 2. So everybody go ahead, Swate, have a seat. I'm going to start talking at this point. Talk about the last Dojo-kun and what it means in the COVID pandemic. All right. Guiding principle number 5, or not guiding principle, Dojo-kun number 5. Restrain my physical abilities through spiritual attainment. All right? I'm going to talk a little bit about an interesting thing from old school Okinawa. In America, in English, we talk about doing something from the heart. That means we emotionally, we feel it. If I just go and get a card from my wife and I just grab whatever card happens to be first that I see and I give it to her, it doesn't really mean much. If she like gets it, she's like, why is this saying happy 6th birthday? I'm like, I don't know, I just want to get your card. Doesn't mean anything. If I go through and I look at all the cards, and I pick the card that means the most to me, and I give it to her, she's going to be happy. She's going to feel touched because she's going to feel like it came from my heart, came from my emotions. I did it for her. Well, on Okinawa, the equivalent saying is doing something with your hands, because your hands are how you interact with the world. And if you are doing something with your hands, it means you mean it. It is the expression of your feeling. So, restrain my physical abilities through spiritual attainment. One of the other takes on that, a lot of times I talk about physical abilities meaning fight, and it does. There is a strong emphasis of that, and it tells us to restrain. But there's also another way to look at it. My physical abilities aren't just limited to my punching and kicking. It's everything I do with my hands that I physically interact with. That's my physical abilities. And it tells me to restrain them, to not do them unless I really think it's necessary, unless the action is coming from my heart. It's coming out. It is an expression of what I do. Because everybody stand up for a minute. Everybody stand up. Make sure you got plenty of room. Make sure you got plenty of room. And I want you to just flail your hands around. Just, don't even pay attention. Right? They're going everywhere. You're not doing anything on purpose. Okay, you can relax. Now I want everybody to take their right hand and put it very deliberately in the center of the body where their heart is. Okay? Your hand wasn't going everywhere. It wasn't doing anything. Maybe while you were flopping around that happened. Maybe it didn't. But if I'm restraining myself, if I'm not just letting my limbs fly everywhere, I'm doing something deliberately, intentionally, and on purpose. You can do that for absolutely everything you interact in the world with. If I walk over, I don't have to walk very far. We'll walk it all really. And pick up my eku. I can do that intentionally, on purpose, for a reason. Place it over here. It's a little safer over here. All of that is on purpose. That's how you should interact with the world. On purpose. There's another phrase that you may hear every once in a while come out, and it's called mindfulness. Being mindful. Being aware of what you're doing and why. Here's your homework. It's a fun bit of homework for Dojo-kun number 5. For Dojo-kun number 5. The next time you eat something, it's getting close to dinner time. We're gonna all have dinner here soon. I'm hungry. I'm a big guy. I've been eating a lot in quarantine. You can tell I'm getting a little bit of a tummy. I want you to eat it mindfully. How often are you like, I'm so hungry, I'm done going? I got 2 teenage boys. Watching them eat is hilarious because now I understand what my parents are talking about when they're like, slow down! Because I watched both of them take like sandwiches and it's gone. Eat it mindfully. Taste it. What are you tasting? Not just, that's good. Why is it good? I bet you probably haven't done that. If it's a food you don't like, the same thing. Eat it. Why don't I like it? Maybe it looks gross. The taste is actually fine, but it looks disgusting, so I don't like it. That's fine. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying, do you know why? Are you restraining yourself, or are you letting yourself flail about the world? That is what one of the things it is talking about. Because when it talks about spiritual attainment, there's lots of different means it can talk about, but most spiritualities, I'm not saying religions, most spiritualities have a form of mindfulness. Christianity is really big about mindfulness. They pray. What is prayer besides sitting down and thinking about what you're doing while you're communicating with God? Buddhism was where we got mindfulness meditation from. I could go on and on and on and on. Almost all the different spiritualities have some form of mindfulness because it's a very good way to live your life. If you live mindfully, if you restrain yourself and only move on purpose, you will find yourself being more appreciative, being happier because you're not worried. Well, if I have something to do, I will just do it. I will restrain myself until it's time to act, and then I'll act. That whole concept, that's part of, also I've talked about this in class, this is more for my advanced students, the mushin, the no mind, and the seishin, the total focus. That mindfulness, that restraint, is the ability to move back and forth between those two states at will. All right, that was a good class. We'll feel about 50 minutes seems to be good, because after that I start losing my voice because I'm talking so much. Everybody go ahead and get. Right? Tomorrow arigatou gozaimasu. To our shomani, right? Karate no michi. And to all of you, right? Konbanwa. Good seeing you all. I'll see you in 2 days, Thursday. I'll stop moving forward so you can see me. At 4 o'clock again. Same link, same everything. Bye.
Oh, wait,
Claire,
Claire.
you had a question?
Do you know if Enoch and Michael will still go to black belt camp?
There is a large question about whether or not summer camp is even going to happen this year. So if it doesn't, probably not. I did just have a meeting with Kaicho, a little bit of what my training stuff, and he's going to be talking with the senior Yindasha, the high degree black belts, and actually he's going to be doing this with me. So, which will be great, because I haven't had a chance to train with high level black belts in a long time. We're going to be going over things like the Kazushi kata. He asked us what we need to work on, and the thing I shot to him is exercise number 10. I need it better. I don't, so that way I can bring that all back to you guys too. So, but as of right now, I don't know if camp's going to happen. Even if camp happens, they may not have black belt testing, because losing these months of training, you all know, all my black belts know, that would have been horrible for you guys trying to go into black belt testing with several months off. So probably not, but we'll see. Like so many things in this pandemic, don't know for sure, probably not. But we'll adapt, we'll go.
Are you guys going to do a black belt?
So, all right, did I answer your question, Claire?
Yeah.
Best. Wish I had more definitive answers, but yeah. I don't even know if summer camp's happening this year. So that has to happen first. Yes.
Also, are we going to have a black belt Zoom class?
Yeah, maybe. We'll figure that out. We got the time. We can do that. We'll talk about that. Les and I will talk about that and see what we can work out. So might just do, yeah, definitely something we could do.
If black belts have suggestions or things that they'd like to see or times that would work, email us and let us know, because that's super helpful. Your parents should have the open hand email or text us or whatever. Just get a hold of us and let us know what you're thinking.
Cool. Good seeing you again. Any other questions? Nope. All right. See you again. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.